Here's the thing. Us Oilers fans, right? And I mean, I am a prime example of the conversations had because I have these conversations on camera day in, day out, and you, my friends, all spend way more of your time than I could ever imagine asking for, watching, listening, and engaging with my thoughts on the discussions that we as Oilers fans have every single day. Today, though, and this week, is going to be one of those long looks at a discussion that we've had for probably about 2, 3 years, maybe his entire tenure as Oilers GM right now, because of the fact of what the Oilers have to achieve here just to make a roster work with Evander Kane coming back. Friends, this is Dolany TV. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're tuning in from today. Here's the problem. I know everyone's from all over the world at this point, so wherever you're tuning in from, thank you for making some time, extra time here if you're watching on Tuesday, for me to discuss something that I think weighs heavy on a lot of Edmonton Oilers fans' minds, just simply because it's been a looming threat for several years for us as fans of the team looking for success. Before we get to that though, of course, the housekeeping notes. Friends, if you're new to the channel, I want you to consider hitting that subscribe button here on the channel. Why? Because you know what, it just gets you access to the videos a little bit quicker. I don't really think it makes that much of a difference, but again, too, you can just kind of have a little quicker access. That's the best pitch I have for you. And two, the live streams are kind of what that gets you to, and that's a really handy thing because that's where we can live interact, answer questions, all that. Anyway, I don't need to pitch the subscription anymore. More than likely, if you've already subscribed, you've heard the pitch before, you get where I'm going. It's fine and dandy. Also, if you're enjoying tonight's topic at any point, leave a thumbs up on the video. I do such a terrible animation of that. Personally, that's fine. We'll get better with time. I promise you. I've only been doing this for 10 years. Only way to go up is up. That said, friends, Ken Holland. Okay, I've done a good job not mentioning Ken Holland too many times to begin the video because simply I want to make sure we're having a sane, rational discussion based on our general manager. I started the video by saying this week really determines what he's doing with his job. Well, maybe that's not entirely true. Maybe that's not entirely accurate. But it is a large definition of what Ken Holland is going to have to do to make this team successful. And obviously a general manager, especially in Edmonton, is judged by the success of which he has with his team year in, year out. Now I know, it's not necessary that Ken Holland gets fired at the end of the season if the Oilers X, Y, or Z, right, miss playoffs, swept in the first round, get to the second round, lose in Game 7, swept in the third round, 2 wins in the Stanley Cup Finals and lose to Boston, whatever the case might be for the Oilers this season, it is very unlikely, in my opinion, that Ken Holland gets fired. However, that does not simply solve Oilers fans' frustrations with our now long-term general manager. He's been here for a couple of years now. He's signed some contracts people don't like. I think number 1 that comes to mind is Darnell Nurse. Number 2 would be Zach Kassian. And number 3 would be Warren Foegele. Add in Jesse Puljujarvi, Kyler Yamamoto for those that have opinions on those 2 players that are very polarizing either way. Well, suddenly, right, you start breaking down a general manager who I think the majority of Oilers fans, and this is not blaming Ken Holland even, this is just more or less, hey, agreeing with Oilers fans that the only success we want to see is a Stanley Cup in Edmonton. That's why having Connor McDavid matters. That's why having the best 2 players, Connor and Leon, matters. That's the end all be all. If you don't win a Stanley Cup with this team, how does any team in Edmonton ever win a Stanley Cup again? That would kind of be the short-term, irrational point of view. But again, when you've got a general manager, especially, right, Ken Holland's not a young general manager. Ken Holland's not been here for 6 months. It's kind of one of those things right now for the Oilers. Success is needed in the immediate future. And obviously, right, I would gladly, as an Oilers fan, Oilers YouTuber, Oilers whatever you want to say, I would gladly take the Oilers just going to the Stanley Cup final to give me that taste. And then all the better next year winning it. Sure. However, year in, year out, success is hard to repeat. That's kind of what we've learned this year coming off of the conference finals last year. So in that, we kind of have this week now where Evander Kane is coming back, moves have to be made. I had this conversation with Patrick today, and I kind of made it a pointed barb towards the Oilers and their management of the salary cap today. I don't want to. I know I often, I think, overshare conversations I have with Patrick, but the point of barb I threw towards the Oilers' salary cap management is all season long, and it feels like we're just tracking to the trade deadline to really take care of things, is we'll just punt it down the road for later. We won't worry about it now. We'll figure it out tomorrow. We'll find a way to do it later. And that's, again, if you watched Patrick's video today, the Oilers Fanatics video out on kind of the Oilers moving around with Evander Kane, potentially Bo Horvat, Ivan Provorov, kind of mixing it up, all the topics of the day, is Kailer Yamamoto going to the LTIR seems to be the solution for the Oilers getting Evander Kane back. So all season long, when the Oilers have gotten players back from injury, you always end up, because of the way they're managing the salary cap with the LTIR this year, is cool, we're going to lose somebody to gain somebody. Now, obviously, as just a common sense Oilers fan, I think 100% based on the results this year, Evander Kane is a massive add, and Kailer Yamamoto is a so-so loss, right? I think we can all agree on that. But still, every time the Oilers make an addition this year, it's by subtraction. And here's the problem. This is where Ken Holland is going to get judged at the end of the day, especially this season, and his job could necessarily be on the line based on the moves corresponding to get us where we need to be by the end of the trade deadline on March 3rd, I believe it is, and then the finishing part of the season in the playoffs and stuff, is how he does that addition by subtraction at deadline's end. Because right now, right, it's all hunky-dory. You can add Evander Kane, throw day-to-day Kailer Yamamoto on the LTIR somehow, let him miss 10 games, 21 days, whatever the heck it is, and boom, right? You've solved it for another 3 weeks, and now suddenly we're in mid-February. Cool. Hey, look at that. That's some general managing, right? Make it work today, and we'll worry about it tomorrow. But the problem is, at some point, Ken Holland has to make the move to clear salary cap, because right now, and this is the hardest part to fathom as an Oilers fan, we can't afford the team we have. Physically. Without somebody being injured, we cannot afford the team we have. And I know, well, yes, Puljujarvi doesn't need to be a part of the team would be the first answer. Warren Fogel's doing nothing. Why is he still here? Well, we could move on from Bouchard and save a couple bucks. There's a ton. And of course, the overarching theme I've heard here on Dolly TV, which is an absolutely ludicrous thing because it physically will not happen. I don't care how much it makes sense. I don't care how much you want it to happen. Trading Darnell Nurse is a non-starter with anyone within the Oilers organization. I'm an outsider. I don't got a single connection within the Oilers organization. I know that. And if you don't know that, I'm sorry, but that's the facts, friends. So when it looks at this for the Oilers, Ken Holland, he's got to find a way with whatever pieces you're tired of hearing about him having to move, whatever pieces you're tired about being sent down, or guys that you don't like on the roster. Ken Holland's job at the end of the day, when he gets evaluated by whoever is going to evaluate his season this year, right? Whoever is the person that signs his paycheck and says, Ken, good job, bad job at the end of the day. You know what it comes down to? Is this situation here. And the problem is this Evander Kane return is the situation I'm talking about. But when you punt it down the road, you're just extending it, right? The loss of Evander Kane is the original situation we're still trying to fix. Klim Kostin fixed that. But now you've just created a problem where now Klim Kostin fixed that, and Evander Kane coming back is now the current problem that you're kicking down the road 3 weeks, whatever it is, for Kailer Yamamoto to come back from LTIR, if that is what the Oilers do. So all this just kind of leads to this meandering path where the Oilers all of a sudden succeeding in 3 games against the Pacific Division, big game on Tuesday against the Kraken, to the trade deadline, right? They just meander their way to the trade deadline. Hopefully you've done good enough, you make your additions, and away you go. Well, that's fine. That's fancy. But again, all that Ken Holland has done this season, and I think a lot of friends here on Dolly TV, I imagine over 50% of the 10,000 we've now got here on the channel, would agree that Ken Holland has more or less just stuck his head in the sand and avoided the problems by A, letting Jay Woodcroft do whatever he needs to do to squeeze every ounce of productivity out of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl to get wins. B, allowing this roster to hopefully just magically figure it out. We'll take a look at Broberg for 2 weeks and we'll get back to you with some kind of idea if we're making a trade or not. Was a theme 2 weeks ago. And you know what? We just slowly, roll towards the trade deadline. The Oilers are in a playoff spot. It's concerning a little bit, but the thought of missing the playoffs is too scary for fans to admit that it's a possibility outright. So now, is you've just parlayed one problem down the road into another problem, kicked it down the road, parlayed it into another problem. And for the Oilers, at some point this has to be solved. And if it's not solved, that's when Ken Holland's job ultimately is on the line, right? You can't have a general manager run away all season while managing a roster. See, Ken Holland's actively managing the Oilers roster and running away from all his problems at the same time. They're keeping an eye out for defensemen. They're calling everybody. They're doing all this, but nothing is physically getting done. I mean, today, is a day where all of Oilers media, I think, was kind of hyping up, hey, something's going to shake out today, The news about Evander Kane meeting with his doctors was supposed to shake something out. And all we really got was Evander Kane giving a bunch of quotes about how he's ready to go, not 100%, but he's ready to go and give it for the team. And Markus Niemelainen got sent down. And realistically, Markus Niemelainen being sent down is not news at all because it was the most expected outcome out of solving this entire mess. Now today it comes to light, Kyle Yamamoto could go to the LTIR, but it's kind of getting sick and twisted at this point, how magically every time the Oilers have to make money work, and this is maybe my frustrations as an Oilers YouTuber who's sitting here, hey, I get physical things from YouTube here. Like, my metrics on YouTube only work if I post videos about things people want to watch. And right now, as a guy that puts the math together, what people want to watch is how the Oilers are going to solve their salary cap problems, how they're going to add to the team, and how they're going to make the team better. And Markus Niemelainen going to Bakersfield does not do any of that, That's the problem. That move alone flatlines the excitement because it just does nothing. I mean, great, Markus Niemelainen gets playing time, but it does nothing. And this is wherein, you talk about it, You've got this problem to solve, and all season long, Ken Holland's just playing it along, kicking it down the road, putting his head in the sand, ignoring it, and just surveying over his options, but still actively managing this team. He's still actively watching over this team, doing interviews, talking about this team, sending out paychecks, calling guys up, sending guys down. He's still working. And yet it feels, from a fan perspective, especially my shoes, nothing is being done and it's just being left till tomorrow. And to get to the fan kind of, what's the right word? The fan sentiment, I guess, towards Ken Holland right now is that if he doesn't do something, we're going to be in trouble. And problem is, that was the line when we lost Evander Kane. That was the line at the start of December. That was the line in mid-December. That was the line over Christmas. That was the line early this month. That was the line this week when we finally found out Evander Kane was coming back. It's all just kind of, it just keeps playing and playing and playing, and I get it. And I've talked for 13 minutes without saying Ken Holland is a patient general manager. Don't put anything past him. He'll make the sneaky good move when he has to. It's fine. But again, is end of the day, if he doesn't deliver on that sneaky good move, if he doesn't deliver on making the right move at the right time, how do you, as whoever's signing his paychecks, Daryl Cates, Bob Nicholson, whoever the heck is above him in the Oilers organization that says you stay or you go, how do you justify Ken Holland just kicking the ball down the road all season long to avoid the problems, hoping the team just magically figures it out, and you just hope that by deadline's end, everything's figured out and you go and repeat the success you had last year? Because if Ken Holland's general manager goals from the organization, if the Oilers organization is not saying to Ken Holland, look, you got us to the conference finals last year with Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen in net, We allowed you to sign a $5 million goaltender who is much younger than either of them, and we gave you our best young rookie in net we could to say, figure it out, have success, and you don't even deliver half as good of a year as last year. How do you justify sitting there and saying, nope, business as usual, Ken Holland's doing a great job? And maybe to me, Ken Holland's job being on the line isn't even him losing his job. Maybe to me, and perhaps after going through this, right? Hey, you know what? I'm talking a lot of stuff into existence, a lot of stuff that I haven't asked myself prior to the video. Maybe after 15 minutes of this video, you know what? To me, Ken Holland's job being questioned somehow, some way by the Oilers organization, or as an open, loud discussion in the Oilers media circles following whatever happens at the deadline or whatever happens postseason, if that isn't a conversation, if Ken Holland does not do that sneaky good move at the deadline or before, that stops this kick the can down the road mentality we've had all season long, if that doesn't at least happen, that's where I'm going to have a problem. So that's maybe to me, is Ken Holland's job being on the line is just more of a figurative thing that, hey, look, we need to have that conversation. At what point do we need to figure this out? Because Evander Kane's coming back, and once again, we're just going to throw a guy that 2 days ago was day-to-day just a little nicked up on the LTIR to solve our problem right now today, and we'll worry about it 3 weeks from now. It's insanity to me at some point, but hey, you know what? End of the day, there's a reason I'm sitting here in front of my hockey jerseys, wearing a t-shirt, talking on a camera to you on YouTube. And there's a reason Ken Holland is the general manager of the Edmonton Oilers. And Connor McDavid's our captain. And Daryl Cates spends to the cap. Hey, at the end of the day, we'll find out what happens, friends. I'm Tyson, this is Stolony TV. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I will catch you, of course, in the next one tomorrow, when hopefully we have some news. Tomorrow's a bit shady, all right? Anyone that is still with me here at the 17-minute mark, tomorrow's a bit shady. Have some stuff to do for work all day, staying home, and then B, also have to get into town and get the car in for a service quickly, and then figure out how to punt back to home with my car getting fixed in time for the game. We'll talk in a few hours' time, friends. I am up on out of here.